Hello. All right, gang. How's it going? Happy Saturday to everyone. I hope you can't hear the Avengers on in the background. Tom is rewatching all of the Avengers from the start. I am not, but he seems to be having a nice time. I'm just rapidly scrolling. I've been going through the whole thing today. Hi everyone. Hi Jay, Richard, Kevin. Hello. I've been going through the entire rest of the book today because I know a couple of people have started to say things like, okay, so we're all on chapter 35. How much more of this have we got to go? Hopefully in a I'm planning my week way rather than Jesus Christ, it must be ending soon kind of way. So basically, it wasn't in proper chapters, but I've had a look through, and what I think the best way to do it is to have, there will be 4 more chapters and the epilogue. So I think we're looking at 5 more nights of As We Know It. Then, again, a few people were just asking, what should we do? Is there anything replacing it afterwards? And it seems like people are watching still. I know that we all meet up and do this. But the numbers on the videos, I think people are catching up with them. So if we've got 5 more nights of this story, I think that will make us finish on Wednesday. Then I was thinking what I might do then is have a couple of days break. So have maybe Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I will carry on working on the new thing that I'm working on. And then we can start the new story from Monday. So we will read from 5 more nights, then we'll have a little break and I'll get writing, and then there'll be a new story to start us off from Monday. Unless we're out of lockdown and there's a vaccine by then and we're all clear, that could be nice. Don't think it's very likely. But yeah, we'll do that then. So we've got 5 more nights of As We Know It for people that like to know how much there is left. If we were reading this on a Kindle, that percentage would be whooping up. Okay, right. So hello everybody. Yay, everybody's in. Numbers are jumping up and down. I guess maybe some people just dip in and out to see when the waffle stopped and the story started. So chapter 35 was last chapter, wasn't it? And Hamish is talking to the angel on the bench, and the others have no, chapter 36 was what we did last night, wasn't it? Yes. So chapter 36 was last night's story, and now we're on to chapter 37. Is that right? Anybody that's taking notice? I feel like that's right. Yeah, okay. So yeah. Yes, because I think we were ended on the line, it didn't work, he felt awful. Yeah, okay, so chapter 37. Hamish was not up in the field. Sarah had called until her voice was hoarse. Catherine and Mrs. Shue had finally persuaded her to turn back when she slipped on an uneven piece of mud and came close to twisting her ankle. It jarred her shin, and she felt suddenly angry. By the time they met up with Frank and Jesus, almost the entire village had joined the men. I'll say this for an apocalypse, it is an excellent means of bringing people together. There had been so little to do in recent days that everyone had jumped on the chance to get some fresh air and partake in a good old activity. Oh, failure. No luck, called Frank across the group of villagers. Not yet. Sarah was steady, determined to stay positive about the situation. Hamish would turn up. What's the worst that could happen? It was already the end of the world. Hamish sat still in the aftermath of the angel's summary. She was quite right in many ways, and Hamish knew it, but he also knew he disagreed. He just didn't quite know how to say it very eloquently. You are right. No. Oh my God, his first line every day bloody floors me. What? I was a Scottish accent, right? You are right, he began magnanimously, but I don't totally agree. Then his brain stopped providing words again, and he thanked it silently and sarcastically for its assistance in the conversation. The angel seemed in no hurry to prompt him, and so he let the ideas further ferment for a few minutes before continuing. I don't know what God's like, but if he's anything like Jesus, then I think the Bible must have come off course somewhere. Jesus is so relaxed. He's so human. It just feels like he's a lot more open to a conversation than Christianity would have you believe. A religion is only ever what humans decide to do with the knowledge that there is a God. Now that they were all amassed, it felt very difficult to know what to do with themselves. Sarah nestled under her father's arm and waited for either him or Jesus to come up with a plan. She didn't have to wait long before Mrs. Shue took the reins. Right! The tiny lady bellowed at the group, making them all jump. She may have used slightly more volume than was absolutely necessary, but nobody could say it hadn't been effective. Thank you all for coming out this afternoon to help us find Hamish. It's best we don't jump to conclusions about where he might be, but as he's not prone to disappearing, it's imperative that we work as a team to track him down. The crowd made agreeing noises in her general direction, and each set of feet seemed to try and make off in a direction without first deciding which direction was best. It gave the impression that they all needed the toilet. Mrs. Shue continued, Now, we've had a pretty thorough comb of most of Norton Fitzwarren, and there's not been a trace of him. I reckon it's time we looked further afield. She glanced across to Jesus, who nodded his consent, and she carried on. I know this might be daunting for some of you, as you've not left the village since the beginning of the apocalypse. Some of us even longer. Isn't that right, Mr. Baxter? Shouted Martin Young jovially, and a few people tittered. Quite. Mrs. Shue smiled thinly. Well done, Mr. Young. Now please be quiet. This is serious. I suggest we split into a few groups of not fewer than 4 to a group for safety reasons and head off in separate directions to look for Hamish. We should all turn around and aim to be back here by fairly soon after dark so we know we're all safe. Agreed? There was a murmur of consent. Excellent. Right. If you could all split yourselves into practical groups, I'll come round and give you a direction to go in. Once you've been given a direction, you can go. Try and make the most of the light. She bowed her head to indicate she'd finished addressing the crowd, and they chatted amongst themselves and began separating out into groups like oil on a frying pan. Jesus was as confused as he's ever been. He knew he needed to warn the villagers, but he didn't know how to. He felt horrendously guilty, and the thought of admitting that guilt in a warning only compounded the sensation. But he knew that letting them go unawares would only make him feel worse later, so he bit his lip and opened his mouth. Now, this chapter's like divided into bits with what's his face, Hamish, and bits with the village. And I don't like if you were reading it, you'd just see the gap and it would be obvious. But I don't know how to do that in narration. So there's a gap. Aye, Scottish, no, that's that accent. In which case, it should be fine for me to know that there's a God and to be a decent person, but still not have to follow the man made details. It is fine, said the angel simply. I don't need to go to church to go to heaven. Church is only a tool to keep people on the right path. If you don't need it, you don't need it. Hamish considered this. He had so many questions, and the more they formed properly, the angrier he realised he was feeling. What was it all, if it wasn't what it had all been? If church didn't matter and you didn't have to go and beg and plead with God, then what had it all been about? History looked very different once you knew about omnipotence. What is the earth? The angel half smiled in a strange, sad way. She looked Hamish in the eye. Clarify exactly what you mean? So, God exists. He is real. He created the earth and all the creatures on it. Yes? Hamish's temperature was rising as he struggled to print his thoughts clearly on his mind's eye. The angel nodded. But there's tragedy, there's death, and there's so much suffering. And there's someone up there who could just vanish it all, and he doesn't. So what is the earth? Are we a toy? I don't understand. If it's an exercise in humans learning, it's a horrible way to go about it. There's been so much loss. The angel opened her mouth to reply, but left the words where they lay. You don't know, do you? Asked Hamish. Just before we go, Jesus called. Those nearest him heard, but people towards the back of the group were still shuffling into groups and trying to spread the reliable map readers out amongst the slow walkers and the people who were good with berries. Quiet, yelled Mrs. Shue, and at least 4 people in the crowd paused to admire her lung capacity. Thank you, Iris, Mrs. Shue, said Jesus. Just before we go, I wanted to wish you all luck, and I need to tell you to take care. I need to warn you that there may be something out there more dangerous than you could possibly imagine. You won't necessarily see it, so just be careful. He nodded and tried to smile in a heartwarming way, but he felt it wasn't cutting any mustard at all. There's an invisible beast, came a nervous voice from the crowd. What kind of beast? Asked someone else. Most likely a hell beast, I expect, said Martin Young. Martin, snapped Mrs. Shue, I will not tell you again. You haven't told me anything. You are stirring, and you know you are. I am not. I'm not the one that said there'd be an invisible beast, complained Martin Young bitterly. Oh, I didn't say there'd be an invisible hell beast either, whined Jesus, momentarily forgetting his divine status in the panicked rush to avoid an undeserved telling off from Mrs. Shue. So it won't be invisible? Queried Martin Young, brows furrowed. It'll have horns, won't it? Said Mrs. White matter-of-factly. Red skin and all. Might have those fluffy legs, like in Hercules. What was Danny DeVito? Called Angela Norman. He was a goat. Half a goat, corrected Angela. He was a satyr, said Mr. Baxter, and half the village turned to look at him in surprise. What? I like Disney. A goat satyr, said Angela. Doesn't sound right. I prefer chicken satyr, said Miss Martin Young to a predictable groan. Even Jesus rolled his eyes, and he'd been alive when that joke was written. So it'll be a goat with horns, said Angela. No, tried Jesus, failing to regain control. Oh, thank heavens, said Angela, who hadn't liked goats ever since a childhood visit to the big sheep had had more goats than the name suggested. Jesus regained his composure. I don't mean that there are any kind of beasts out there, visible or invisible. He stopped again. Truth be told, I don't know what I'm warning you about. I cannot give you any more details of the dangers you may face, other than they may be there, and they may be terrible, and that I have every faith in you that you will triumph. May the Lord bless you and keep you. Why can't God save us? Hamish demanded. Sorry, my nose is really tickling. I'm really aware. Hang on, I'm just going to go off camera and have a real good nose tickle. Okay, it's because I was cleaning out this room a little bit to try and tidy our house in preference for living here. Right. Oh, professional, aren't I? This is why I'm not on the telly very much. Ugh. Right. Why can't God save us? Hamish demanded. What is he waiting for in this lesson for us? And what is the point of this lesson if he's already missed so many billions of lives? Seems like a cruel master to sacrifice so many to make a vague point for those still to come. Are we a toy for a spoilt child, or does he not have the power to do anything for us after all? Has all this flattery been in vain? The angel's smile was turning at the corners of her mouth, morphing from something inherently melancholy into something resembling victorious. Well, that's the plan, isn't it? She whispered. That's always been the question. What is he playing at? But it doesn't always do to question too loudly, does it? Is that a threat? Hamish's hackles raised. Not for me, my boy, the angel laughed. I don't need to threaten you. I like you. Take it as more of a warning from someone who learned a long time ago that it doesn't always do to question God's almighty plan. There we go. That is the end of this chapter. You should have your own show with accents. Yeah, well, I think we know why I'm not a sketch comedian. Yes, I can't do the accents, but maybe there's some sort of I'll get a TV show if I have to kill everybody that currently has one and steal theirs. Right, that's the end of that chapter. So back same time tomorrow for the next chapter, and then exciting. I hope you're still enjoying it. I mean, if you're not and you're still here, you are a sadomasochist, and you should really. There's so much internet. Go and do anything else. Right, have a lovely Saturday night, everybody. Stay indoors. And you're great. And I'll have a great day, New Zealand and Croatia, if you're here, and America, if you're here. Have a lovely day. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.